Concerns over tariffs apparently had little effect on U.S. wholesale prices for the month of February. The producer price index stayed flat last month, showing only a jump of 3.2%. Industry experts had predicted a bigger jump. But with the new tariffs in the mix, there's, of course, uncertainty about what comes next. So let's bring in CBS News MoneyWatch correspondent Kelly O'Grady, who's here in Studio 55 to break it down for us. So let's talk PPI first, Kelly. People were expecting an increase. Is it, I guess, too early to see an impact on these tariffs, which are just only now going into effect?
Yeah, so we would have expected to see a little bit of an impact from the tariffs. Remember, we had a 10% tariff originally on China that went into effect early February. So this would, in theory, have captured that piece of it. Because remember, the producer price index, this tracks what businesses, their costs, how they're moving. Mm-hmm. And so they would have likely paid more to import goods from China with that tariff. That being said, all of the other ones, the ones where we're expecting to feel more pain, like that extra tariff on China, as well as the aluminum and steel tariffs, and then the reciprocal tariffs are coming. None of that is reflected in this. Look, this was a good report in general. It comes after the CPI we talked about yesterday, that we're seeing that tick down. I think what's going to be really interesting is how the Fed is going to look at this data, because you are seeing slowing consumer spending, consumer sentiment. We're going to get another read tomorrow rather, but then you also have inflation going down, but the wild card of tariffs. So they're really just kind of looking at this. It's probably going to be a wait and see, but that's a tough spot to be in.
And what about jobs? What are the numbers looking like there?
Well, we got the jobs report about a week ago or so, and employment was 4.1%. That's relatively good. It was a relatively strong job market. We had less roles opening, but we did have more manufacturing jobs. There were bright spots there. So I think that is staying relatively steady. But then we go back to this uncertainty around tariffs. You have businesses who are saying, do I hire more? Do I maybe lay off because I'm going to have an increase in my costs with tariffs? There's just so much uncertainty there that I think the bigger picture when it comes to inflation and jobs is going to develop over the next couple of months.
So let's talk about actual products that will be affected. I know that the president today is saying that he's going to put tariffs on wine and champagne if Europe doesn't come around to his way of thinking because of the way that they've imposed tariffs on whiskey. What are you hearing about that?
Right. So this is, if you don't take off the whiskey tariff, then the president is going to impose a 200% tariff on the wine that is coming.
It seems like such an arbitrary number.
It's like, very high.
It's like a Dr. Evil number. Like, what is a high number that will make the press write about it and will get me on television talking about it? How about 200? Let's go with that.
To be fair, we saw him do this with Ontario, Canada, earlier this week, where he said, I'm going to go 50% on aluminum and steel if you don't back down on your electricity tariff. And they did actually walk that back. In fact, they're meeting today. So this is interesting. I actually spoke to my best friend who runs a small business wine shop last night, and we were talking about tariffs. And she said, look, we are already dealing with slowing consumption. People are not drinking as much alcohol as before. And
I'm on a little bit of a dry spell.
Okay,
so,
I'm not.
These tariffs aren't going to affect me.
I'm doing my part, Vlad. Okay, I'm drinking. But what she said was that higher-end customer that really likes the wine from France and Italy, they're not very price sensitive. So she was saying, look, if we get a 25% tariff, it's not going to be a big deal. I spoke to her this morning.
Wait a second. I like wine from France and Italy. I'm not price sensitive. I'm taste sensitive.
Okay. Taste sensitive. But what she said is, I spoke with her again this morning, a 200% tariff would really just crush her business. So the hope is this is a negotiation tactic.
But Kelly, just again, to be clear for people to understand, the president keeps saying that he's imposing these tariffs. But you and I, even though you're a friend, you would pay higher prices for French champagne and Italian wine because those tariffs are paid not by the country that's exporting them, but the country importing them.
Right. It would crush her business because she would have to pay that import tax and then would likely have to pass that on to customers. I'm not buying the high-end French wine. I'm buying the low one for those customers that are.
Box wine for everybody. When you come to my house, you're getting wine in boxes. Kelly, always great to have you here. He's like, it's true. That's what he serves. Thank you, Kelly.